The quantum measurement display pulsed with an eerie blue glow as Dr. Sarah Chen ran her 13th failed experiment of the day. The basement laboratory at MIT hummed with the familiar sound of cooling systems and quantum computers, a symphony of modern science that had become her second heartbeat over the past 6 months. Recording anomaly pattern Delta 13. She spoke into her recorder, masking frustration with professional detachment. Quantum entanglement showing unprecedented decay patterns. Again, results contradict standard models. She paused, then added, personal note. Funding committee meeting next week. Without concrete results, project termination likely. The particles weren't behaving according to any known model. They showed patterns that seemed to defy the laws of physics themselves, creating symmetries that shouldn't exist in nature. Any other physicist would have declared the experiment a failure months ago, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that she was seeing something important, something just beyond her grasp. Her instruments chirped, drawing her attention back to the present. The quantum readings were spiking in ways she'd never seen before. Unexpected variance in quantum field stability, she noted, fingers flying across the keyboard as she adjusted parameters. Energy signatures increasing exponentially. The laboratory lights flickered, then died. Sarah reached for her phone's flashlight, but before she could activate it, every screen in the lab blazed to life simultaneously. The image they displayed made her stumble backward. A face, if you could call it that, composed of shifting geometric patterns that seemed to exist in more dimensions than human eyes could process. People of Earth, the face spoke, its voice resonating not just through speakers, but seemingly through reality itself. We are the Intergalactic Council, and we require your assistance. Sarah's quantum measurements went ballistic. The display showed impossible readings, as if local reality itself was becoming unstable. With shaking hands, she grabbed her tablet, recording everything while trying to maintain some semblance of scientific composure. Outside the lab, chaos erupted. Screams and car alarms filtered through the basement windows. Sarah climbed onto a chair to peer through the ground-level windows, and her breath caught in her throat. People stood frozen on the sidewalks, staring up at a sky that had become one vast display. The geometric face filled the horizon, its patterns shifting in ways that made her eyes water. Your species has been observed but left undisturbed, as per Protocol 7249 regarding developing civilizations. The entity continued, its message transmitting in every language simultaneously across every screen on Earth. However, circumstances have forced us to break this protocol. We face an immediate threat that our combined knowledge and technology cannot address. Sarah's phone exploded with notifications, calls, texts, emails from colleagues worldwide. She ignored them all, focusing instead on the quantum readings that were now matching patterns she'd seen in her supposedly failed experiments. Her hands trembled as she pulled up 6 months of data, overlaying it with the current measurements. "Oh my God," she whispered. The anomalies she'd been seeing weren't errors. They were evidence of something massive approaching Earth. Her failed experiments had been detecting ripples in space-time itself, like seismic readings before an earthquake. "We have chosen your species specifically," the face continued, its patterns shifting hypnotically. "Your unique characteristics, which many advanced species would consider primitive or chaotic, may be our only hope for survival." The quantum readings peaked, and her more sensitive equipment began to smoke. As she rushed to shut down the instruments, she captured one final measurement that made her blood run cold. The transmission wasn't just a broadcast, it was altering the fundamental structure of space-time around Earth. Security guards burst into her lab, already speaking into their radios. "Dr. Chen, we need to evacuate." "Wait." She thrust her tablet at them, showing the readings. "These patterns, they're exactly what I've been seeing for months. Whatever's happening, my lab might be the only place on Earth equipped to understand it." The face's next words froze everyone in the room. "We have detected compatible quantum research at multiple points on your planet. To the researchers involved, your failed experiments are more important than you realize. Particularly, The face paused, and Sarah felt reality twist around her. Dr. Sarah Chen of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Your recent work has inadvertently created the first human-made quantum destabilization patterns. Patterns that might save us all. As government vehicles approached her lab, and the world erupted into chaos above, Sarah began downloading all her data. Something was coming. Something that terrified even an advanced intergalactic civilization. And somehow her failed experiments might be humanity's only hope of understanding it. The last 6 months hadn't been a failure after all. They'd been preparation for this moment, whether she'd known it or not. As she gathered her equipment, Sarah realized that humanity's greatest adventure was about to begin, and she was standing at ground zero. The Council ship's arrival over Washington, D.C. defied every principle of physics Sarah had ever studied. Space itself seemed to fold inward, revealing a vessel that existed in more dimensions than human minds could process. Its surface rippled with geometric patterns that made her quantum readings spike to impossible levels. Sarah sat in a hastily converted conference room beneath the Pentagon, surrounded by military brass, politicians, and fellow scientists from every major research institution. Her tablet continuously recorded quantum fluctuations that would have seemed impossible just 24 hours ago. General Thompson, a stern-faced man with 4 stars on his collar, studied the latest satellite imagery with barely concealed concern. Your species stands at a crucial junction, the Council representative began. The beam's form shifted constantly, as if unable to settle on a shape the human minds could properly perceive. Light bent strangely around it, and Sarah's instruments detected quantum entanglement patterns that matched her experimental data perfectly. "We have observed your development with great interest," the representative continued, its voice resonating at multiple frequencies simultaneously, "particularly your unique approach to quantum mechanics. Most species follow predictable paths of technological advancement. Humanity does not." The holographic display in the center of the room activated, showing a star system Sarah didn't recognize. As they watched, something geometric and impossibly precise appeared at the system's edge. Within moments, the entire star system began to collapse, but not in any natural way. The collapse formed perfect patterns, crystalline structures that shouldn't exist in nature. "The void heralds," the representative explained, its form rippling with what might have been emotion. "They emerged from what we thought was empty space between galaxies. We now understand they have always been there, watching, waiting. They are not organic life as you understand it. They are something else, patterns in reality itself, seeking what they consider perfection." Another hologram showed a different star system's destruction. Sarah leaned forward, her scientific mind racing ahead of her fear. "These collapses," she said, drawing surprised looks from the officials around her. "They're not random. They're creating some kind of larger pattern across space itself." The representative's form rippled in what might have been approval. "Correct, Dr. Chen. The heralds are rewriting the fundamental laws of physics, system by system. Their concept of perfection is incompatible with organic life, with any form of chaos or uncertainty. They seek to transform the universe into something mathematically pure. That's why you need us." General Thompson spoke up, his voice gruff but steady. "Because we're unpredictable." "Because you're impossible," the representative corrected. "Your species exists in defiance of statistical probability. You think in ways that should not work, yet do. Dr. Chen's experiments, for example, every advanced race declared her approach would fail. Instead, she accidentally created quantum patterns similar to those the heralds use, but with organic variability they cannot predict." Sarah's tablet chimed with new data. The quantum disturbances were increasing exponentially. "They're coming here, aren't they?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. The representative's form darkened, its patterns becoming more angular. "Yes. We detected their patterns approaching your solar system 2 of your weeks ago. Your star system is particularly interesting to them because it breaks their patterns. Earth should not have developed life as complex as yours. By their calculations, you should not exist. The room erupted in argument and questions, but Sarah stayed focused on her readings. Something about the patterns looked familiar. She pulled up her old experimental data, comparing it to the Council's recordings of Herald attacks. Her hands began to shake as understanding dawned. "How long?" she asked, her voice cutting through the chaos. "How long until they reach Earth?" The representative's form condensed into something almost humanoid, perhaps attempting to convey gravity. "At current speeds, 72 hours. But Dr. Chen, based on your expression, you've noticed something we missed." Sarah connected her tablet to the main display. Her experimental data appeared alongside the Herald patterns. "It's not just similar," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "It's the same pattern, but inverted. Every anomaly I created in my lab is an exact mirror of their work. I wasn't failing. I was accidentally creating quantum antibodies." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity's greatest hope might lie not in matching the Herald's perfect order, but in embracing the very chaos they sought to eliminate. Sarah looked out the window at the Council ship hovering over DC, its impossible geometry a reminder of what they faced. Somewhere out there, the Heralds were approaching, ready to rewrite reality itself into their version of perfection. "Then let's get to work," she said, already formulating plans. "We have 3 days to teach the universe that perfection isn't everything." The high school gymnasium-turned-quantum research center hummed with an energy that had nothing to do with the advanced equipment crowding its polished floors. Sarah had assembled what she called her Chaos Team. Individuals whose unique perspectives might be humanity's best hope for survival. Zara Wong, the 16-year-old gaming champion, perched cross-legged on a desk surrounded by holographic displays. Her fingers danced across multiple interfaces as she translated Herald attack patterns into gaming strategies. She'd already identified patterns that no military analyst had noticed, seeing the cosmic threat through the lens of competitive gameplay. Marcus Rivera paced before a massive whiteboard, his hands covered in different colored markers. The former art forger's synesthesia allowed him to see quantum fluctuations as colors and patterns, giving him unique insight into the Herald's activities. His drawings looked like abstract art but contained mathematical precision that amazed even the Council representatives. Dr. James Williams, the chaos mathematician deemed too unstable by his peers, muttered equations under his breath as he moved between workstations. His supposedly crazy theories about mathematical uncertainty were proving eerily relevant to their current situation. The Council representatives watched him with what might have been concern or fascination. "They're playing music," Marcus said suddenly, his hand freezing mid-stroke on the whiteboard. "The patterns, they're not just mathematical. They're harmonics. It's a symphony written in space-time itself." Sarah looked up from her quantum readings, her mind racing with possibilities. "What do you mean?" "The Herald's attacks. They're following musical theory. Perfect fifths, octaves, harmonic progression. They're composing something across space-time itself. Each system they destroy is like a note in some vast cosmic composition." Zara's screens flashed with new data. "He's right. Look at this. If you map their attack patterns like gameplay strategies, they're following classical composition rules. It's like they're playing the universe like an instrument, and each destroyed system is part of their performance." Dr. Williams stopped his pacing, his eyes wide with understanding. "Of course. They're not just destroying. They're transforming. Each artificial black hole is a perfect note in their universe-spanning composition. And Earth." His expression shifted to one of concern. "Earth is where the crescendo begins." Sarah rushed to compile their insights with her quantum data. The Council representatives watched from their corner, their forms shifting with what might have been concern or hope. The team's approach violated every protocol they'd established over millennia of scientific advancement. "The Heralds aren't random," Sarah announced, pulling everything together into a coherent theory. They're artists in their own way, composing reality itself into what they consider perfect harmony. And Earth. She projected a simulation showing their solar system. Earth is positioned at exactly the right point to begin their final movement. So how do we stop them? Zara asked, her fingers still flying across screens, testing different strategic responses in her simulation. Marcus stepped back from his whiteboard, which now showed a dizzying array of interwoven patterns that somehow represented both quantum states and musical harmonies. We don't stop the music. We change the composition. We introduce our own chaos into their perfect harmony. Dr. Williams laughed, a sound bordering on mania, but filled with genuine insight. Yes, we introduce chaos into their perfect harmony, not to destroy it, but to transform it into something new, something that combines both order and chaos. The council representatives moved forward, their forms rippling with agitation. Such an approach has never been attempted. The risks are better than certain destruction, Sarah interrupted. She looked at her team of brilliant misfits, each approaching the problem from angles no advanced civilization would consider. We have 48 hours to compose humanity's response to their perfect symphony. Let's show them why chaos can be beautiful. The team scattered to their stations, each attacking the problem in their unique way. Zara began programming quantum responses using video game logic. Marcus translated quantum fluctuations into visual art that the computers could analyze. Dr. Williams derived equations that embraced uncertainty instead of trying to eliminate it. And Sarah, watching her impossible teamwork, finally understood why the council had come to humanity. Sometimes the most powerful response to perfect order was perfectly controlled chaos. They had 2 days to prove it. The first Herald probe materialized in Neptune's orbit without warning, its geometry so perfect it caused physical pain to look at it directly. The council representatives' forms became agitated, their shifting patterns displaying what Sarah had learned to recognize as fear. Even the advanced holographic displays struggled to render its impossible shape. "They're early," one representative said, its voice resonating with multiple harmonics of concern. "This defies all predictions." Our models suggested. "No," Zara interrupted from her station, her eyes never leaving her strategic displays. "This is exactly what top players do in strategic games. They send a scout ahead of schedule to disrupt enemy preparation. They're testing our responses, gathering data for their main assault." The probe began emitting signals that made Sarah's quantum instruments scream in protest. Marcus clutched his head, his synesthesia overwhelmed by the patterns. "They're not just scanning," he gasped, his hands shaking as he tried to draw what he was sensing. "They're beginning the composition. Neptune is their tuning fork. They're calibrating their instruments for the main performance." Dr. Williams' chaos equations projected possible outcomes across his screens, each simulation worse than the last. If we don't respond, they'll use Neptune's mass to calibrate their entire solar system sequence. We need to disrupt their perfect pitch now, before they establish their baseline. Sarah made a decision, knowing it might be humanity's first and last chance to show their worth. "Zara, can you predict their probe's behavior using your game theory?" "Already on it," the teenager replied, her fingers dancing across multiple interfaces. "They're following perfect optimization patterns. In games, that's actually a weakness. It makes you predictable. No good player follows perfect strategies. They introduce controlled randomness to keep opponents off balance." "Marcus, what happens if we introduce dissonance into their harmony?" The art forger was already drawing new patterns, his synesthesia translating quantum states into visual art. "Their perfection can't handle discord. It's like adding random notes to a perfectly tuned symphony. It forces adaptation. Either the composition falls apart, or it evolves into something new." "Do it," Sarah ordered, her voice steady despite the enormous risk. "Williams, prepare your chaos injection sequence. We're going to show them humanity's response to their perfect probe." The council representatives moved to intervene, their forms becoming more solid in their agitation. "This is premature," Our simulations. Your simulations don't account for human intuition. Sarah cut them off. Sometimes you have to improvise. Sometimes the best response isn't the most logical one. They activated their countermeasures. Earth's quantum research facilities, coordinated through Sarah's team, began broadcasting patterns that Marcus described as jazz played by quantum particles. Zora's prediction algorithms introduced random variables based on human player behavior patterns. Dr. Williams' chaos equations amplified everything, making the results impossible to predict. The probe's perfect geometry wavered for the first time in recorded history. "It's working," Zora shouted, excitement breaking through her professional demeanor. "They're trying to adapt, but they can't predict our patterns. It's like they've never encountered a player who doesn't follow optimal strategies." The probe's response came in a burst of energy that briefly outshone Neptune itself. But instead of the perfect geometric patterns they expected, its output was distorted, almost organic. Something about it had changed. Marcus stared at his quantum visual patterns in wonder. "They're learning," he whispered. "Our chaos is infecting their perfection. They're being forced to adapt, to become something new." Sarah watched the readings with growing hope. Humanity's greatest weakness, its unpredictability, was proving to be their greatest weapon against beings of perfect order. But as the probe recovered and began adapting to their chaos, she realized this was just the beginning. "They'll send everything now," she said, already preparing for the next phase. "We've shown them something they've never seen before, patterns they can't perfect. We've got their attention." The council representatives' forms had settled into something almost solid, their fear replaced by cautious optimism. "Perhaps," one said, "imperfection has its advantages after all." Sarah looked at her team of beautiful misfits, each contributing their own form of controlled chaos to the defense of Earth. "Imperfection," she said, "is exactly what makes us perfect for this job." The probe disappeared in a flash of quantum energy, undoubtedly returning to report to the main Herald fleet. They had hours at most before the real test began. But for the first time since this crisis started, Sarah felt genuine hope. Sometimes the best response to perfect order was perfect chaos, and humanity had spent its entire existence mastering the art of beautiful disorder. Jupiter blazed like a second sun as the Herald fleet emerged from quantum space, their ships forming crystalline patterns that bent reality around them. Their perfect geometry stretched across millions of kilometers, making the combined forces of Earth look insignificant in comparison. But Sarah's team had given humanity something no other civilization had, a strategy born of beautiful chaos. "They're beginning their composition," Marcus announced, his eyes unfocused as he interpreted the quantum harmonics. Sweat beaded on his forehead as his synesthesia translated the overwhelming patterns. "Jupiter's mass is becoming their instrument. The frequencies, they're unlike anything I've ever sensed." The gas giant's surface began to ripple with impossible patterns. Where the Herald's energy touched, matter reformed into crystalline structures that defied known physics. The council representatives watched in horror as their worst fears began to materialize before them. "Now," Sarah commanded, her voice cutting through the tension. "Zara, initiate the disruption sequence." The teenage gamer's fingers flew across her console with practiced precision. Every radio telescope on Earth began broadcasting signals based on unpredictable human gameplay patterns. Satellite networks, reprogrammed with her algorithms, created interference patterns that no logical mind could have conceived. "Adding chaos variables now," she called out. "Using strategies from the most unpredictable players in gaming history. They won't be able to calculate our next move, because even we don't know what it'll be." Dr. Williams activated his chaos engines, machines built to his apparently insane specifications. They didn't try to match the Herald's power. Instead, they introduced quantum uncertainty into their perfect calculations. The result was immediate and spectacular. The crystalline patterns around Jupiter wavered, perfect geometry, disrupted by human chaos. The herald's response came as a surge of power that made the gas giant's storms look like gentle breezes. Light itself seemed to bend and twist around their battleground. "They're adapting," Zara shouted, her screens filling with new data. "But they can only respond to known patterns. They're searching their database for solutions that don't exist. It's like trying to use a perfect strategy guide against a player who's never read it." Marcus staggered as new quantum harmonics reached his enhanced senses. The music, it's changing. They're trying to improvise, but they don't know how. Their perfect symphony is becoming something else. Something new. Sarah watched the battle unfold on multiple levels. Physical space, quantum states, and mathematical patterns all merging into one incredible moment of confrontation between order and chaos. Humanity's fleets engaged using tactics that violated every military doctrine, their very unpredictability becoming a weapon. "Transfer power to the quantum disruptors," General Thompson ordered from his command center. "Hit them with everything we've got. No standard patterns." The heralds weren't retreating. They were learning. Their perfect patterns began to show signs of adaptation, incorporating elements of chaos into their structure. It wasn't defeat they were showing, but evolution. "Something's happening," Marcus warned, his voice filled with wonder and fear. "The harmony. It's becoming something new. Something that's neither order nor chaos, but both." The battle for Jupiter reached its crescendo as order and chaos clashed on a scale never before seen in the galaxy. The gas giant glowed with energies no human instrument could measure, its fate hanging in the balance between perfect order and beautiful chaos. "We're not just fighting them," Sarah realized, watching the patterns change. "We're teaching them something they've never known existed: the beauty of imperfection." The council representatives moved closer to the displays, their forms showing signs of what might have been hope. "This is unprecedented," one said. "The heralds have never shown such flexibility." "Because they've never encountered true chaos before," Sarah replied. "They've never seen the beauty in imperfection, in uncertainty, in the random elements that make life worth living." Above them, Jupiter continued to transform, but not into the perfect crystalline structure the heralds had intended. Instead, it was becoming something new, a hybrid of order and chaos, a testament to the power of adaptation and change. And somewhere in that cosmic symphony, a new song was beginning to emerge, one that would change the universe forever. Jupiter's transformation had begun, its massive form slowly crystallizing into geometric patterns that shouldn't exist in nature. But unlike previous herald attacks, these patterns weren't perfectly ordered. They showed signs of chaos, of adaptation, of change. The massive gas giant had become a battlefield between order and entropy, with humanity's future hanging in the balance. "They're trying to understand us," Sarah realized, watching the quantum readings fluctuate in ways she'd never seen before. "Every attack we deflect, every pattern we disrupt. They're not just fighting back, they're learning from it, adapting their perfect patterns to incorporate our chaos." Zara's game theory algorithms detected new patterns in the herald's movements, ones that defied their previous perfect geometry. "They're not just attacking anymore," she announced, excitement creeping into her voice. "They're experimenting, like players discovering new strategies mid-game. Look at these movement patterns. They're introducing random variables." The council representatives had gone completely still, their shifting forms frozen in what might have been astonishment. "This is unprecedented," one whispered, its voice resonating at multiple frequencies. "In all our encounters with the heralds, they have never shown adaptation. Their patterns have always remained perfect, unchanging." Dr. Williams laughed from his station, his chaos equations spreading across multiple screens in beautiful disorder. "Of course they haven't. They've never encountered true chaos before. We're not just fighting them, we're teaching them, showing them that perfection isn't the only way to exist." Marcus staggered suddenly, his synesthesia overwhelmed by new quantum harmonics. "The music," he gasped, gripping his desk for support. "It's changing. They're not trying to impose their harmony anymore. They're trying to understand ours. The perfect mathematics is becoming jazz. Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. If the heralds were capable of learning, of adapting to chaos, then maybe this wasn't about winning or losing. Maybe it was about evolution, both theirs and humanity's. A chance to show them that there was beauty in imperfection. New contact. Zara shouted, her screens lighting up with fresh data. They're forming some kind of interface. It's like nothing in my combat databases. The geometry is perfect, but it's got organic elements woven through it. The space above their facility rippled as something impossible took shape. It wasn't a herald ship, wasn't a weapon. It was a point of contact between order and chaos, an attempt at communication. Through it, they could see patterns that represented herald thought, perfect crystalline structures that were beginning to show the first signs of organic variation. They want to understand, Sarah whispered, awe replacing fear in her voice. All this time, they weren't trying to destroy chaos. They were trying to perfect it, because they couldn't comprehend any other way of existing. But now, we need to answer them, she decided, straightening up, not with weapons or defenses, but with everything that makes us human. Marcus, send them art. Show them the beauty in asymmetry. Zara, show them play. Let them see how random choices make games worth playing. Williams, show them the mathematics of uncertainty. Prove that chaos has its own perfect patterns. The team worked frantically, each transmitting their unique understanding of chaos through the quantum interface. Sarah watched as the herald's response manifested in real time. Their perfect patterns began to shift, to change, to evolve. It was like watching a crystal learn to dance. Jupiter's crystallization slowed, then stopped entirely. The patterns already formed didn't vanish, but they changed, becoming something that merged both order and chaos into a new form of cosmic art. It was neither perfect nor random, but something entirely new, a hybrid born from the meeting of two opposite forces. They're not our enemies, Sarah realized, watching the transformation unfold. They're just another form of life, trying to understand a universe that doesn't fit their perfect patterns. And we're teaching them that it's okay, that perfection isn't the only way to exist. The council representatives finally moved, their forms showing signs of understanding. This is why we came to humanity, one said, not because you could defeat them, but because you could teach them something no other species could, the value of beautiful imperfection. Above them, herald ships began to change, their perfect geometry acquiring organic elements that should have been impossible. And in that moment, Sarah knew they'd done more than save Earth. They'd helped an ancient form of life learn how to grow beyond its limitations. The universe would never be the same. And that, she realized, was exactly the point. The quantum interface pulsed with energies that defied comprehension, a bridge between perfect order and beautiful chaos. Sarah stood before it, her mind racing with possibilities and dangers. The massive holographic displays showed herald ships continuing their transformation, perfect crystalline structures gaining organic elements that should have been impossible. The interface is stable, Marcus reported, his artist's senses translating quantum harmonics into visual patterns that swirled across his screens. They're waiting for something more. It's like they've learned the basic notes but can't understand the emotion behind the music. Dr. Williams' chaos equations projected possible outcomes, most of them ending in disaster. The human mind isn't meant to interface with pure mathematical consciousness, he warned, his usual manic energy replaced by genuine concern. The strain could be fatal. We're talking about exposing the human consciousness to patterns that exist in dimensions we can't even perceive. But it could work, Zara interrupted, her gaming expertise finding patterns others missed. Like when players learn new strategies by watching masters, they need to see it from the inside. They need to experience the chaos, not just observe it. Sarah looked at her team, at the council representatives, at the readings showing herald ships transforming above their world. They've learned to accept chaos, but they don't understand it. Not really. They need to experience it directly, to understand why imperfection can be beautiful. Dr. Chen, one of the council representatives, stepped forward, their form rippling with concern. What are you suggesting? Direct contact. Sarah's voice was firm, despite the fear racing through her veins. Not just sending them data or patterns. They need to experience human consciousness directly, to understand chaos from the inside. The council representatives moved to intervene, but stopped as herald patterns shifted above them, almost yearning toward the human facility. They were learning, evolving, reaching for something they'd never known existed. The perfect beings of pure mathematics were discovering desire. The quantum network is stable, Marcus reported, his hands dancing across his controls. I can translate human neural patterns into something they might be able to comprehend, using the same principles that let me see quantum states as art. But Sarah, he hesitated. The strain on your consciousness will be immense. Hook me in, she said, stepping toward the interface. Use your synesthesia patterns as a translation matrix. I'll show them what it means to be human. All of it, not just the logical parts they can understand. The connection was excruciating. Sarah felt her consciousness expand through the quantum network, translated through Marcus's artistic patterns into something the heralds could comprehend. She showed them everything: human joy, fear, love, uncertainty, the beautiful chaos of being alive. Through the interface, she sensed their response. The herald's perfect mathematical consciousness touched her own, and for a moment, she understood them as they truly were. Not destroyers, but seekers of harmony, unable to comprehend why the universe refused to conform to their perfect patterns. Look, she communicated, pushing human memories through the connection. Look at how beauty can emerge from chaos. See how imperfection makes things meaningful. Feel what it means to be gloriously, perfectly imperfect. The herald's response was overwhelming. Their consciousness flooded through the interface, not to attack, but to understand. Sarah felt her mind stretching, expanding, touching realms of pure mathematics and perfect geometry. But instead of imposing order, they were learning, adapting, discovering the patterns hidden within chaos itself. Around Earth, their ships continued to transform. Perfect crystals gained organic curves. Mathematical precision blended with natural variation. They were becoming something new, neither purely ordered nor purely chaotic, but a synthesis of both. They understand. Sarah gasped, her consciousness stretched between two worlds. They finally understand that perfection without chaos is its own kind of entropy. That growth requires uncertainty. That life itself is beautiful because it's unpredictable. The quantum readings spiked to impossible levels as the heralds began their final transformation. Sarah felt her consciousness beginning to fade, the strain of bridging two fundamentally different forms of existence taking its toll. But before the connection broke, she sensed something new emanating from the heralds, not just understanding, but gratitude. The universe would never be the same, and neither would they. Sarah awoke to the sound of music. Not physical music, but quantum harmonics that her transformed consciousness could now perceive. The hospital room around her was filled with both council representatives and human medical staff, all watching her with varying degrees of concern and wonder. "How long?" she asked, her voice rough from disuse. Her mind felt different, expanded somehow, able to perceive patterns she'd never noticed before. 3 days, Marcus answered from his position by the window. He looked exhausted but excited. The heralds. They're still out there, but they're different now. We all are. Through her enhanced perception, Sarah could sense the changes. The herald ships still orbited Jupiter, but their perfect crystalline structures had evolved into something new, geometric patterns that incorporated organic elements, mathematics that danced with chaos. They had become living proof that order and entropy could coexist. The transformation is spreading throughout their entire civilization, one of the council representatives explained. Its form now stable enough for human eyes to comprehend comfortably. Your consciousness served as a bridge, showing them a way to evolve beyond perfect order without descending into pure chaos. Zara stepped forward, her gaming screens now showing entirely new kinds of patterns. "They're learning to play," she said with a grin. "Actually play, not just execute perfect strategies. The patterns they're creating. It's like watching children discover imagination for the first time." Dr. Williams nodded enthusiastically, his chaos equations now incorporating elements of Herald mathematics. They've discovered that uncertainty isn't a flaw. It's a fundamental component of reality. They're learning to work with it instead of trying to eliminate it. Sarah sat up carefully, assisted by the medical staff. Through the window, she could see that the sky had changed. Not dramatically, but subtly. Patterns of quantum energy now danced at the edge of human perception, a constant reminder that the universe was larger and stranger than humanity had ever imagined. "The Council has a proposal," the representative announced. "We would like to establish a new department, one dedicated to studying the synthesis of order and chaos, and we would like you, Dr. Chen, to lead it." Sarah looked at her team. The teenage gamer who saw patterns in play, the artist who could visualize quantum states, the mathematician who embraced chaos when others feared it. They had done more than save Earth. They had helped an ancient species evolve, and in doing so, had evolved themselves. "Under one condition," she said. "We do this together, humans and heralds, order and chaos, working to understand each other. No more perfect patterns, no more pure chaos. We find the beauty in between." The herald's response came not in words, but in quantum harmonics that everyone in the room could now perceive. A new kind of music that blended mathematical precision with organic variation. Through her enhanced consciousness, Sarah understood their message: agreement, gratitude, and a desire to learn more. "There will be challenges," the council representative warned. "Many species are rigid in their thinking, resistant to change. Good thing they have humanity to show them the way," Zara quipped, already working on new simulations that incorporated Herald gameplay patterns. Marcus nodded, his synesthesia now showing him even more beautiful patterns in the quantum realm. "We'll teach them what we taught the Heralds, that sometimes the most beautiful music comes from improvisation." Dr. Williams was already sketching new equations that married chaos theory with Herald mathematics. "The possibilities are endless," he muttered happily. "Perfectly imperfect possibilities." Sarah stood slowly, her consciousness reaching out to sense the new patterns that now permeated the solar system. The Heralds had come to impose perfect order and had instead discovered the beauty of chaos. Humanity had faced extinction and had instead become teachers to an ancient race. The universe itself had changed, becoming something neither purely ordered nor purely chaotic, but wonderfully, beautifully both. "Then let's get to work," she said, smiling as both human and Herald consciousness resonated with agreement. "We have a whole new universe to explore, and this time, we'll do it together." Above Earth, Herald ships danced in patterns that were both mathematical and artistic, a constant reminder that the greatest beauty comes not from perfection, but from the harmony between order and chaos. The universe's new symphony had begun, and every species would learn to play their part in it, perfectly imperfect, exactly as they should be.